to start off in our pranayama for Ujjayi breathing, ocean breath. And so find yourself in a nice, comfortable seated position. You can always use a block. You can always place some blankets underneath you. And or if you prefer, you can even actually sit on a chair. So with that, just make sure your shoulders rolled back, away from your ear. If you like, you can close your eyes. And with ocean breath or Ujjayi breath, we're going to actually be constricting our throat slightly. So if you're not familiar with this, you just kind of just breathe out through your mouth. Inhale and exhale through your mouth. You can do that unless you're familiar with Ujjayi. You can start that way, but just breathe in and out. And then you kind of close your throat slightly, not completely, but slightly, as if you're trying to fog a mirror or fog your eyeglasses. You can hear that on the exhale. There's a slight little, just breathe in normally. And exhale. And when that becomes more comfortable, see if you can do the same thing on your inhale. It starts sounding like the ocean breath. Or if you're a big Star Wars fan, it sounds like you're Darth Vader. So just continue doing that. Now, once that becomes more comfortable, you can actually close your mouth and see if you can continue the same type of inhalation and exhalation. So as you do this, and again, you can keep your eyes closed. I'm going to give you a couple comments here. If by chance you have breathing difficulties like asthma, this does not feel good to you, just go into your normal breathing. Also, if by chance you feel a little bit lightheaded or dizzy, you may not be getting enough oxygen. You may not be breathing enough. So try not to constrict it so much, or just go back to normal breathing, okay? Really stay focused on where your throat's at. And bring your attention inward. Feel the breath kind of go up and down through the throat. Throat represents, of course, our voice. And yet, when we think of breath, it's the Spirit of God. So think of the voice of God. If you like, you may switch your foot out. Chances are you have one heel in front of the other heel. It's a good way for you to realize, like, oh, I might have a preference area, just to kind of help open up the hips slightly. And then you may notice there might be some differences in here. It may not feel as natural, and that's okay. No judgment, just awareness. Knowing all the great handiworks that God created. While you're breathing here, set your intention. And provide you with this Bible verse. Some of the different verses, scripture that goes to the Hillsong United. I'm using basically from the bridge version of it. The stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the ocean roared for greatness, so will I. For everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you set it, so will I. rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sum of all our praises still fall shy, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. So the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the works of his hands. With that, you may want to open your eyes. Inhale your arms all the way up to the sky. Exhale your hands back down. Bring it down to your hands and knees. If you like, you can always pad your knees. Just going to do a couple cat-cows, knowing the creation, all of nature, what God had created. Check your knees directly underneath your hips, hip-width apart, and your wrists directly underneath your shoulder-width apart, with your index finger up toward the top of your mat, your thumb spread out wide. Your other 3 fingers for each hand is also spread out as wide as possible. And as you inhale, you're going to slowly drop your belly down toward the floor and go to whatever percentage. You don't have to go full extension. Lifting your tailbone up toward the heavens. Bring your shoulder blades toward each other behind you. Then lift your gaze up heavenly. As you exhale, you're going to arch your back upward, pressing your hands, tucking your tailbone down, bringing your chin down toward your chest. Inhale, go back into cow. Exhale into cat. So the last couple of weeks we talked about going to different levels. So you don't have to go extreme. Go into your level of 25%, 50%, 75%. Go on to your own breath count. So just go inhale and exhale on your own. Really feeling your spine awakening, your vertebrae. We're going to do a nice little songbird, so get back into tabletop. You're going to lift your right leg back behind you, flex your right foot, heels behind. Feel that nice and straight. If you want, you can extend your left arm forward. You can keep your left hand down, it's completely fine. And exhale, bring that left elbow to your right knee. Just get a little bit of motion. Extend it back out. Exhale it back in. Inhale, extend it back out. 3rd time the charm. Exhale back in. And then extend it back out. Let's bring our hand back down. Then we're going to do the same to the opposite side. So this time, we're going to extend your left foot straight back. If you like, you can extend your right arm forward, but you can always keep your right hand down. And if this is a bit much for even your left leg up, you can always drop the big toe to the mat, completely fine. Feel your breath. Your gaze should still be down toward the mat so that the crown of your head is toward the top of your mat. Exhale, bring your knee toward your right hand. Inhale, extend it back out. Exhale it back in. Inhale it back out. Exhale it back in. Inhale it back out. Bring your hands back down. Bring your knee back down. And this time we're going to do gate pose. So I'm going to be facing towards you. You're kneeling. Your feet are on your knees are at hip width apart. So again, if this bothers your knees, you can place some blanket under here, or you can even do this sitting up. So we're going to extend your right foot up to the side. So your right heel is going to be in alignment with your left knee. If your right foot does not extend out, what you could do is you can place a block, bolster, blankets, anything. Sometimes that makes it a little bit more accessible. So check your left hip. Is it directly over your left knee? Everyone good there? These look great. Inhale your arms up, palms facing down. Exhale your right hand down toward your right extended leg. Bring your left arm up. Don't go too deep, so feel how you feel. Just kind of awakening a little bit, allow them to stretch. See if you can open your chest, your heart up toward heaven. Breathe here. And just feel Whether or not you're staying nice and straight or extending a little bit, don't force yourself too deep. If this does not feel good for your shoulders, you can always bring your left hand toward your left shoulder. That's completely fine. You can always bring it down by your side. You can even feel how it stretches all the way up. So nice lateral stretch. Exhale, let's bring your left hand directly underneath your left shoulder. Extend your right arm up, and we're going to lift our right foot up. So we're doing a mini, this is almost like a half moon balance pose, but it's modified. Working at Urban Mountain Science Center, where Greg was the director and he was my boss in the astronomy department. All these constellations and everything, just wonderful. Bring your hands back down, bring your foot back down. You can walk your hands in front, feel a little bit of stretch, walking, crossing it over. Bring your right foot knee in, extend your left leg out. To check your positioning again, so as you lift up in kneeling position, your right hips over that right knee, so you can always pat it. Check your left foot. So your left foot is kind of actually pointing out to your left. Okay. You guys all look great here. Inhale your arms halfway, palms facing downward. Feel yourself nice and grounded. And then again, we're going to slowly start bringing as you exhale, your left hand down toward your extended left leg. Right arm goes up. Now don't go too deep, so really allow that whole side, that right lateral side to stretch first. We have a tendency to want to go completely over and just think God created heaven and earth, and each day something separate. So can you imagine? You didn't do everything all at once. So really take notice. Remember the option, connect with your breath. Are you doing the ocean breath, Ujjayi? Now again, if this is something you can actually sit at a chair and be at the edge of it, and then just have the extended leg straight out from it, and then your bent leg is actually bent in front of the chair. So this is something a little bit more accessible that way as well. Make sure your heart, your chest is open up. Breathe. Or are you gripping your breath? Are you gripping your jaw? "30 seconds seems pretty long, doesn't it?" Inhale here. Exhale, we're going to bring our right hand right underneath our right shoulder. Bring your left arm up. You're going to extend and lift that left leg. So be nice and strong. Our modified half moon pose. Really good for our core. You can bring your gaze forward if you want. You can bring your gaze upward, or just listen to how your neck feels. Then when we allow our left foot to touch the ground, bring your left arm down, and then just kind of extend it over. So you can feel a little bit of stretch in your lower back. To stretch it forward, walking your hands crisscross back to the center. Bring your knee in, and then now facing the top of your mat, going to bring your hands a little bit forward of your shoulders, tuck your toes, and we're going to lift up into our downward facing dog. First downward facing dog, so you may want to walk your dog, bending one knee, extend your other heel. We're going to slowly walk our hands up, our feet up to our hands. We're going to go into Tadasana, mountain pose. So your feet are at hip width apart. Slowly come up. So really watch as you come all the way upward. In mountain pose. Feel your press points. Feel if you have those 4 press points, nice contact to the ground. When they talk about moving the mountains, but mountains aren't supposed to move, so pretty nice and stable. Have a nice firm foundation. So Shoulders again, go down and back. Your hands are down by your side, palms forward. I want you to feel yourself extending downward, so like reaching down toward the earth, but you're kind of envy, and I'm going to come sideways. So it's not straight down because that would be actually unnatural because it's your muscles. So it's a little bit down from the side. Then I want you to take notice of your legs. So are you hyperextending your knees? Is it being locked in? And in fact, sometimes, you guys all look good. Sometimes you can see if there's certain areas stronger or weaker, depending on if they're leaning forward or back. So you guys all look really good. Oops, someone just leaned forward. Are you guys doing that on purpose? So just feel yourself elongating through your vertebrae, crown your head going up to heaven. Inhale your arms all the way up towards the sky. Reaching up, take your left wrist with your right thumb and index finger, pull it upward, and then bring it over toward the right side a little bit. So this should feel normal because we kind of did this with our gate pose. But feel whether or not both feet are nice and grounded still. Inhale back to center. Exhale your hands all the way back down. Sweep your hands up with your inhale. This time you're going to grab your right wrist with your left thumb and index finger and exhale it over toward your left side. Again, can you feel yourself in that same plane of body? Inhale back to center. Exhale your hands back down. You're going to just kind of bring your hands, slap it back and forth. Allow your hips, allow your knees. You don't want to lock your knees. Feel a little bit of motion. And if you're actually slapping your hands being in the back, kind of like your kidney slaps, it's actually kind of healthy. So this is actually a qigong motion. But be kind. So we're giving a little bit of rotation to our spines, this little spinal twist. But easy does it one at a time, because sometimes we stand so long, don't want to force anything too quickly. All right, we're going to slow it down back to center, into that nice mountain pose. And as we say, the mountain bows of reverence, so feel yourself bending at just the hips. So as you bend at the hips, not the waist, you feel yourself engaging slightly right above your hamstring, your quads, I should say. Folding forward. Now, if you want, you can always bend your knees slightly, and then your hands going to go down to the floor. Bend your knees a lot. Take a step back, your right foot. So right foot is in front of us, behind us. Plant your hands onto the mat. And I want you to slowly heel toe your left foot toward your right hand. Now be very careful. So you can allow the heel to come down toward your body. We're coming into a pigeon pose. So as you come down, if you feel like your left knee, so go slowly. If you feel like your left knee is going to be hurting, bring your left heel closer to your body. Let it drop down. Okay. Now your right knee makes contact. You're in your pigeon pose. So chances are your hips might be way off the ground. At least mine is. I haven't done, which goes to show we haven't done pigeon pose for a while. That's okay. So if you want, this is where you can put a block or a bolster or any kind of prop underneath that left hip. So you're not forcing it down. So this is really good for sciatica, your lower back and stuff like that. The biggest challenge is usually the knee, but be very, very aware of what your body is trying to tell you. It's one of those things is so important in yoga to listen to your breath and listen to your body, and the body's going to tell you based on the breath if you're starting to hold your breath or is not going through that nice flow, that nice deep breath. It's a nice little way of noticing that. And this is something you don't normally do. It takes a while before you may get a little bit more flexibility. Sometimes if you practice pigeon for a long time, you can actually go down onto your forearms. But again, it's one of those things you don't want to go too deep too soon. There is no yogi points for that. So if by chance you're like, gosh, I feel like it's still too deep because if you're folded forward, you can always place blocks, maybe make it higher. I tend to have really long arms, so that's not really an issue with me, but I just want to show people options. Again, this is where I talked about you can place a block underneath your hip or whatever to support on it. And then just listen to your body. So when I say listen to your body, if this is feeling very uncomfortable, like if you have any numbness or tingling or sharp shooting pain, it's your body's way of saying, like, please get out of it. So please do. But if it's uncomfortable in the sense of it's feeling a little bit stretching, then it's doing what it should be doing. So as you become more attuned to your body speaking to you, then you are able to respond appropriately for it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to tuck our right toes and be able to lift our right knee up off the ground, and then you're going to kind of lean forward so you're on that left knee, and then you take a step back into your downward facing dog. You know, walk your dog again. So this time we're going to get into our pigeon by bring the right knee forward. So when you bring the right knee forward, you're not bringing it straight up like a lunge. You're going to bring your right foot, right knee, then your right knee, but your left foot is already kind of going toward your left hand. And then you plant it down. Again, the same thing. Your left foot starts walking behind you, and then your left knee drops onto the mat. Does that make sense? So now you're going to be on the opposite side. So now you can probably see, look, I have this big gap between where my hip is and the floor. So if I wanted to, I can just place a block here or even put some towels or blankets or beach towels or whatever underneath there. And with blocks or books or pillows, you can choose what height to give it a little bit of support, not allowing to force it down or anything like that. So your left foot would be on the ground, top of the foot's on the ground, and you may get foot cramps. This is some of the things that I noticed, like not doing certain stretches, I get foot cramps because you haven't stretched those fascias and webbings of our body. So each side's different. Like for me, you can always tell I can actually drop all the way down for this. But this is where yoga is so important in terms of not trying to compare yourself to what someone else is doing and not even comparing yourself to what you may have done beforehand. Just where are you at this present moment in time? And continue to breathe. So the Ujjayi breath that we were doing, the ocean breathing, what's so great about that is it gives the ability to give more power to a certain area. You can actually direct your breath into different areas of your body, kind of like if you can focus in that area. It's amazing how you can actually bring some energy and more of the oxygen into that whatever area you want to look at or feel, I should say. All right, so this time you're going to place your hands beneath your shoulders, tuck your left foot down, lifting your left knee, and then taking a step back, your right foot, downward facing dog again. So downward facing dog, feel yourself pressing into your hands, trying to move that mat forward. Your head's going to tilt down. And then we're going to slowly walk your feet back up to your hands. Forward fold, lift your hands to your shin, nice flat back. Really feel yourself nice and straight back out in a cantilever. Bend your knees and come all the way up with your inhale. Sweep your arms all the way up to heaven. Have your hands, palms touching each other, and slight lower back bend if it's accessible to you. Inhale your hands back to the center. And then we're going to do our star balance pose. So, star balance pose. Feel where your feet are nice and solid. So I'm going to be facing you. We're going to have your right foot, feel the press points in your right foot. This time you're going to feel that, and you're going to lift your left foot out to the side. Lift your right arm out and your left arm as well. So it's the star balance pose. So this is just balancing. It's okay. You don't have to go all the way deep. You can be here. That's completely fine. So this is really good for strengthening your ankles, your calves. And then because you're depending on where you are at, you can be a twinkling star. So if you want, you can do jazz hands. And then great, release. You can shake it out, roll out your shoulders if you like, and then do the same thing to the left side. So left foot nice and grounded, nice and rooted. Then your right foot out, and you can decide how far, how wide, or what kind of star you want to be. You can be a falling star if you want. It's completely fine. And then back to center. All right, very good. So we had opened up our hips. This could actually be pretty easy for us to do for the eagle pose. So birds, of course, are a big deal. So knowing that we worked our foot, we know how we are able to strengthen it. So have both feet come toward each other. We're going to slowly bring your arms up in front of you. Bring your right elbow underneath your left. You can either cross your hands, or you can just have your hands touch your opposite shoulders. Okay. Now I'm going to take a seat, bending your knees. Extend your right leg out, kind of like what we did with the gate pose. And then if you can, bring your right leg over the left. So here's the thing. I'm showing you full-blown eagle. I'm crossing my feet around. You can always just tap it. So I'm going to show you side from side. You can be bent. You can have your left foot touching there, kind of like a little stake there. That's completely fine. This is still doing what it needs to do. Or in full eagle, you're actually lifting your foot and crossing. So you're really using all these joints being used. If you feel like you're falling out, bend lower. Notice it gets rid of all the gaps. Eagle pose. Then we fly all the way back up. Good job. And if you want, you can kind of loosen it up, and then we're going to do the other side. So right foot solid, arms up. You want left elbow underneath the right, and you can cross it. Again, if that's not accessible, you can always just cross your hands, kind of like the Ujjayi stuff. Bending your knees a lot. Extend your left leg out. Inhale, lift it all the way over. And again, you're going to notice how each side's different from the other side. Okay. And see if you can lift your elbows so it's almost the same height as your shoulders. And you feel how it really broad stretches the upper back, your shoulders. Keep breathing. And you always keep the toe on the ground. It still works. You're still working those different joints, the ankles and all. And come back out. Whee! All right. You can actually feel the stretches in certain areas. So for some folks, you might want to I'm going to just stay in a chair or stand up and then just do the arm part. And other times you might want to be at a table and you can just work on the ankle joints. So you can break these down in different pieces, but the full-blown Dharasana, eagle pose is what we just did. So with that, I think we had enough fun with all those. Inhale your arms all the way back up. Exhale, bring our hands down. Take a step back with your left foot. So we're going to drop our left heel down. We come up into warrior one. So right knee over that right ankle. Our arms are up. Your left foot is behind you, slightly at an angle. So your heels are a little bit further back. Your left toes are a little bit pointed at an angle toward the front. Your hips are squared. It's set to be squared. Exhale into warrior two. So you're going to rotate that heel so it's now parallel. The back foot is parallel to the back mat. Your right knee is still pointed in the direction of your second toe. Arms straight, forward and back. Palms facing down. And can you have your shoulder blades down? And we're going to bend our right forearm or bring our right forearm down toward our right thigh. Extend our left arm up. Both side angle. If you like, for those that want to do bird of paradise, you can actually drop your right hand underneath that right leg, bring your left hand behind, and grab onto each other. This is the bound side angle. You can stay here. You can always drop your hands out. For those that want to do more, and this is really working on your strengthening and also opening up the right hips, you can start bring your feet together. So you're almost in with your feet are at hip distance apart. Bound, forward, fold. And if you want, you can bend your left knee. See if you can straighten your right, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. Standing on modified bird of paradise. And if you can, extend it up. I don't think I'm going to do it. So it's just a little bit of fun. Woo-hoo. And then with that, once you're done with that one, bring your hands down back into downward facing dog. You can feel how one side's a lot open than the other side. We're going to bring our left foot forward, drop our right heel down, come up into that warrior one on this side. This time we're going to open up into warrior two. Ready for a side angle, you guys? So we're going to drop our left forearm down, extend our right arm up. For those that want to do bird of paradise, you can drop your left hand down, extend it underneath your thigh, bring your right hand back, so you can grab onto each other. This is bound side angle. And as you bring your gaze down, you start straightening, heel toeing your feet toward each other into bound forward fold. And then for those that want to, you can bend your right knee slightly so you can get that nice solid balance. And then you're in that modified bird of paradise. I need to get off my extra healthy area. Feel the foot being wobbled. Can I get that firm foundation? And then if you want, you can try to extend that left leg for the full bird of paradise flower. All right, too much fun there. And then the flower decides to go bend. All right, so bring your hands back down, take a step back. We're gonna do the rock, you guys. So let's bend our knees, go into our child's pose. If the rocks cry out. So this is where you can really feel your thighs underneath your stomach. If this is not accessible to you, what you could do is put some blankets or bolsters or something between your calves and your thigh. If this does not feel good for your hands or your shoulders, you can always even place something underneath your hands that's outstretched to lift it up, or you can bring your hands down by your side, palms facing up by your ankle. Your hands are down by your ankles, palms facing upward, and it allows your shoulders to roll forward.
hips a lot today. Then we're going to reach our hands above our heads on the mat.
And back up, slowly coming forward. So you get almost into your tabletop and then extend past it. Straighten your knee, going into a slight little upward facing dog. So check to make sure your shoulders, your hands are at shoulder width apart. Be kind. If you want to, you can always go down some more and go into your baby cobra. So working your spine in the back bend direction. Really feel how your lower back feels. You feel like you're compressing your lower back. Make sure you engage your core. So bring that navel to your spine, that belly button, and let's all start bending our elbows so that we can come down into more of a Sphinx pose. Your forearm is underneath your shoulders. You feel your shoulders coming back down. I'd like for you to, if you're in your Sphinx pose, why don't you bring your gaze over toward your right shoulder, so you can kind of turn your head over to your right. Here. Inhale back to center. Exhale, bring your gaze and your nose over to your left side. Center. Bring your head down toward the mat. You guys know where we're going to this. I know. These locust pose. You're going to lift your right leg up. Don't bend your knee. Your right leg's coming straight up off the ground. Drop back down. Inhale your left leg up. Left knee straight still. So just kind of pointing your toes away from you, but lifting it up. You can feel your left hip still making contact to the mat. Bring it back down. This time, when you lift your right leg up, you're going to extend your left arm. So your left arm pointing straight up toward on the floor above your head. And then you're going to lift your left arm up, right leg up. Your gaze is still down on the floor. It's actually maybe even resting on your other hand. I have to kind of move my mic away. Take here for a breath. Drop it down. And then we're going to do the same for the opposite. Inhale your left arm, left leg up, right arm up. Breathe here. Back down. Now see if you can lift both legs up. If you want, even both arms up. And if you want, you can actually bring your hands in more of a cactus pose. So that might make it a little bit more sensible instead of a full locust. Really squeeze those shoulder blades toward each other. Don't keep your neck, so your gaze is still on the floor above your mat, though. And then bring it back down. You can feel your glutes being used. And then push yourself back up into the child's pose. Just really stretching those gluteus maximus again. If your shoulders bothers you, you can always bring your hands to the width of your mat. If you want, you can even place a block or something underneath your head and do what I mentioned the last couple of weeks. You can kind of rock your head, your forehead side to side, so that third eye is getting that nice little acupressure point. Then we're going to bring our hands underneath our shoulders and come back up. We're going to cross our ankles and take a seat. Place our feet, soles our feet together into our butterfly, Baddha Konasana, butterfly pose. We definitely used to have butterfly adventures up at River Mountain. So you can choose to see how open you want your hip flexors. So of course you want it more extreme, you're going to bring your heels toward your pelvic floor. If you want it a little bit wider or a larger diamond, in that case, you can choose to have it a little bit further away. So your choice. Now, again, you have the option from what was taught in a few classes beforehand, do some of those acupressure points. So you can also use your thumb and kind of go along that the inner arch of your feet, or use your index finger and press it right between where the big toe and the second toe, the valley, that kind of like where the joint meets up underneath the webbing. So if you find that area, you can kind of slightly massage it. And then you have a choice if you want to fold forward at the hips to go closer toward your feet. So since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood in what has been made. So that men are without excuse. I don't know how anyone who's seen anything in nature can even question that there is not a creator out there. Back forward. I'm going to go into a slight little deer pose. You can have your right foot slightly come over to toward your left. The the calf is now pretty much straight forward. So your right leg's will be running parallel to the side, and you're going to bring your left foot back behind you so that you're in that deer pose that we worked. So you feel the hips kind of working that we did. So let me move facing towards you guys so you can see. It's almost like 90 degree, 90 degree, 90 degree. So you're not going to have your left foot bent inward. It's still trying to do that 90-90. So you notice that, and you feel how it feels really awkward. Don't force yourself. It's almost kind of like the pigeon pose. And for those that really don't want to do this, you can always go onto your back, the supine back, and do that figure four. That does the same thing. That might be a little bit more accessible. So I'll show you this. So this is the deer pose. This is the yin pose. You're really working those fascias. You're probably feeling in certain areas. So for those that have not been familiar with this, so what I was referring to is the reverse. You're on your back. You might, especially if you're really tight in your piriformis, you can always cross one foot, the ankle, over your other knee that's bent. And as it kind of works closer and closer, you might feel a nice tug, and just be kind. And then for others, they might want to bring it up. So just want to give that option for people. So for sciatica and such, a lot of tightness. We're going to switch sides. So I like to always lean back slightly, lift the left knee, bring your left foot in, and then flip it out. So I'm facing you. Bring your left leg in front, so left calf, left thigh is straight. Of course, I can do perpendicular with some of that diagonal. Right thigh straight out, right leg. So it's all these 90-degree angles. So hip flexibility is going to be very key for health. And sometimes people hear this term of issues in the tissues. So as far as release, so hip areas, we actually hold a lot of tension, a lot of emotion, especially in the hips. It's almost the same thing as when people like clench their fists or clench their jaws. So essentially, it's like we don't realize that we sometimes repress things, hold things down into the hips, and so you can sometimes sense it when it's really really tight, and so this allows some of that emotion to come to surface, and it's okay because it's important for us to be able to release things. After all, God wants us to be able to surrender these different challenges that we've had. He already knows it, but sometimes we want to hold on to it because we want to be in control. So this is a way to allow that to happen. Amazing how the physical body and the mental, emotional mind are so connected to each other. Just take notice how your body feels. But the beauty of it is always this spiritual healing that can handle both the physical and mental. You get back with that ocean breath. I don't know about you, but one of my favorite sounds in the whole wide world is the ocean breath, that the waves, the living water. So we're gonna now release, extend that right leg. We're gonna get onto our backs. Let's see if I'll go this way. Lie down on our back. And have your knees bent. And get ready to do some bridge pose. So bridge pose is a nice little strengthening, but your knees are bent, soles of feet are on the floor, hip width apart. If by chance you have a tendency for your knees to flare out, you might want to place something in between your knees, the thighs, I should say, like maybe a block or toilet paper roll, as if you're like, gosh, lockdown time, people are going to want to start hoarding toilet paper again, so you're going to hold on to it, hold it together. Your adductors. And your gaze is going to always stay straight toward the sky. So you don't want to turn your head to the side. So it's really important to keep your cervical spine in alignment. So with that, if you prefer, you can even put some cervical roll underneath your head. And if you notice that your head kind of leans down more, I would actually suggest putting some props underneath there so that your head and your cervical spine are aligned with the rest of your vertebrae spine. So your hand's going to be down by your side. And this time I'd like for you to feel your lower back make contact to the floor. So as you press your lower back into the ground, you're going to notice how your tailbone slightly tucks upward toward heaven. And you'll probably feel a little bit of muscles going on there, like even starting near your glutes, probably even in your hamstring. So it's how it's so interconnected. Now with that, as you start lifting your hips up off the ground, just go to maybe your 25%. You don't have to lift it up a lot. And then lower back down. And then with your next breath, bring it back up to 25%. Then bring it back down. And then with your next breath, you can decide to go maybe like 40% or 50%, depends on how you feel. And just really connect with your body. Go back down. So continue on until you get to the point where you feel like you're at your max capacity. And your max capacity may be just 75%. Whatever your body feels like, or whatever you feel like you're ready for today. It should feel good. Match it with your breath. So once you're at your full capacity of what you want for today, stay there. So you're in that static position. So now you're feeling your gluteus maximus, aka butt cheeks, holding on. You can probably feel the muscles right alongside of your knees. So this is good. Remember, your gaze is still up toward the sky, but it's not like straight directly up, but like at an angle. So you should be able to maybe even peek at your knees a little bit.
So you might be at a slope of whatever that slope is. For some people, they may want to even do a bind by walking their hands underneath their back. So that's only an option, but check your knee. If you're holding a block or toilet paper, then of course it's staying in position, but sometimes it will splay out. So, and we're strengthening here. And then we're going to lower back down one vertebrae at a time. So really go slowly. Just imagine each individual vertebrae kissing the mat. My favorite. Or bring your right knee in. Hug your right knee to your chest. You can interlace your hand. Then you're going to extend your left leg straight with your right knee still bent in. You may want to even flex that left foot so your heels press out more. You want to do a slight little spinal twist, you can keep your left hand over that right leg, extend your right arm out, and you can choose what degree of twist you want. So as you invite that right knee over that extended left, you can choose to be just a little bit, see if you can maybe keep that right shoulder on the ground. So you may not go far, so you can feel a little bit more of a twist in your thoracic spine. If you want this to be a little bit more restorative, you can always place something underneath your right foot that's over onto the left side, so it's not just dangling, or it's okay, it's up to you. If you want a little bit more of a cervical spine twist, you can bring your gaze over toward your right fingers. So for those with sciatica, I would always suggest you keep both knees bent and have them go in the same direction. So sometimes it's the two different bidirectional that causes a little bit of a flare up in the nerves. Bring your gaze back to center. Or slowly derotate. Bending your left knee. Have it come with your right knee. So bending both knees, you can hug your knees to your chest and kind of rock a little bit side to side. Get yourself re-centered. So we had just done our ascending colon. This time we're going to keep our hands interlaced over our left leg, extend our right leg straight. So our left knee is hugged in, right leg straight. You can feel a little bit of difference there. You can feel probably the right hip flexor is getting a little bit of stretch. Inhale here, and as you exhale, hug that left thigh even closer. So this is your descending colon. Flexing that right heel further away from you. You can feel it while you're keeping it away. You can probably feel your entire right leg maybe make contact with the ground. You have the option to go into our spinal twist by having your right hand over that left leg, extend your left arm out, and keeping that left shoulder on the ground. You can slowly invite that left leg over the extended right. So again, for those with sciatica, you may want to keep both knees bent before you twist on the side. And twisting is still fun. Twisting actually allows us to calm the central nervous system a little bit. So each side's different. You can again use props to help give a little bit of support to the leg that might be hovering, or you can just let it hover. Again, if you want a cervical twist, you can bring your gaze over to your left fingers. But again, for any type of position, if you feel any kind of numbness or tingling or sharp shooting pain, it's your body's way of saying just to back out of what you're doing or stop. sometimes it's a challenge for people to know the difference between numbness and tingling and a stretching feeling. And that's where it's like, as you start becoming more accustomed to your own body, you're going to be able to be aware of it. Kind of like hearing God. Sometimes we think it might be chatter or a whisper or a thought, and yet after a while you truly understand God's voice and what He's asking you to do. Now you're going to derotate your head and gaze to the center, and slowly derotate again your body. So just slowly allow your spine to come back to center, and the last thing to make contact is your left hip to the ground. You're going to drop your left foot onto the floor, your knees still bent. You're going to bend your right knee and have both feet at the width of your mat. And we're just going to do some windshield wipe. We're just allowing both of them to drop to the right side. Inhale, right into center. Exhale it to the left side. You might even bring your hands down, open up. Palms facing forward, upward, heavenly. Just bring both sides. Just windshield wiper back and forth. Beautiful cleansing rain. Sometimes we face different things in our lives, and both tears of joy and also tears of relief in many ways. All right, so we're going to bring it back. Extend both legs up toward the sky, so their feet up toward heaven. I'm about to bring your souls to heaven, right? So your legs are extended. It's called legs up the wall. If you want, you can always bring your hands behind your thighs and see if you can kind of pull it a little bit closer to you. Maybe get a little bit more last minute hamstring stretch. Doesn't matter. If you like, you can bend your knees and reach for the soles of your feet for your little happy baby. And lastly, we're getting into our final resting pose, Shavasana. So with that, you can find yourself into whatever's most comfortable. You can actually go to a physical wall and have your legs up the wall there. You may place a bolster or something underneath your knees, especially if your lower back kind of feels a little wonky. That tends to make it a release. This is the way I actually sleep. I actually sleep with the pillow underneath my knees. But if not, you can always do the traditional Shavasana by having your right heel to the right corner of your mat, your left heel to the left corner of the mat, or kind of like a little A. Tuck your little angel wings underneath you so you can feel your shoulder blades being underneath so it's nice and flush. Position yourself so that when you place your head, you lift your head up slightly and place back down. Your chin is slightly, just very slightly tucked in so that your forehead, the third eye, that space between the brow is actually at least level to your chin. So you don't have your chin jutting upward or higher than your forehead. So again, if you notice that's happening, you might want to place a couple towels or something underneath your head. Hands down by your side. And when I say down by the side, it's almost like in Tadasana, that mountain pose, with your palms facing upward. Keep your eyes closed. You're going to just feel yourself sinking into the earth beneath you, just sinking into God's arms. Relax. Release anything. You actually feel your back, the ribs sink into the ground. You can actually feel the hairs around your hands and your fingers just starting almost naturally curl on its own, because beforehand there was such a open tension, and as it starts to relax, you feel your forehead, your brow starting to relax as well. Focus back to the throat where we started. Our Ujjayi breath, our ocean breath. How God had created everything, the heaven and the earth, all the creatures, mountain, water, and of course, morning. As we lay here and giving thanks to God who created all of us, all the wonders in this world, things unimaginable, even better than what we can have seen. Just sense that presence, that peace, that love. And just wiggle your fingers and your toes, bring some awareness back into this world. We're going to rotate our ankles and our wrists. Inhale our arms over our head, trying to stretch us wide. Maybe bring your feet closer together and stretching your toes away from you. So being as big, like how deep, how long, how wide. Stretch out. As you exhale, you're going to bend your knees. You're going to hug your knees to your chest. Give yourself that well-deserved hug. The same kind of hug that Christ gave with his arms outstretched on the cross. We're going to roll over to your right side, having your lower arm underneath your head to keep your cervical spine alignment. Just going to stay here and just allow the blood to circulate back because we were laying on our back. Keep your eyes closed. You're going to use your upper arms and press yourself up in a comfortable seated position. You can always have your hands down by your thighs, palms up. Like you can have your index finger and thumb touching each other gently. Goes in that circle, that eternal circle. As you stay here connecting, we just want you to consider something. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do. Let's inhale through our nose and exhale out breath as if you're fogging that mirror, open mouth breath. Two more times. Deep inhale here. Full exhale. Let's gather in all that love. Inhale here. Complete exhale. Floating our hands together, palm touching palm, thumb resting right above our heart, tucking our chin down toward our heart. May this be a reminder of how much God has loved us, His creation, that we are part of His handiwork. Thank you for coming. Namaste.